Before we get started on today's episode, I did want to do a little precursor here. Even though I am Texan and live in Central Texas, my Spanish is horrible. So although we're covering an entire video on bandits from Mexico, I'm going to do my best to pronounce them. I know I'm probably going to butcher a lot of names, but please just forgive me for the storytelling's sake, and I hope you enjoy. Jesus Arriga, famously known as Chucho el Roto, was a Mexican bandit active in the late 19th century. His intriguing life has inspired numerous books, plays, and other media. Born in 1858 in the state of Tlaxcala, his real name was Jesus Arriga, with the nickname Chucho being a common diminutive of Jesus in Spanish and Roto translating to discarded or rag. Despite being a promising student, he had to quit school after his father's death to support his mother and sister. His journey led him to Mexico City, where he worked as a carpenter for a wealthy family. A romantic entanglement and an unplanned pregnancy resulted in his forced separation from his family. Chucho's career as a bandit took off in the late 1870s and early 1880s, gaining fame for his ability to navigate Mexico's socio-economic circles and targeting the wealthy. Despite his humble beginnings, he developed a reputation for appreciating fine clothes, theater, and sharing some of his spoils with the less fortunate, leading to comparisons with the famous Robin Hood of England. Chucho's notoriety was fueled by newspaper accounts, portraying him as a daring and clever figure. His ability to infiltrate upper social circles set him apart from other bandits of the time. Despite being arrested multiple times, he managed to escape, showcasing his elusive nature. In 1884, Chucho was finally arrested while he was posing as a coffee seller. His arrest revealed a complex personal life, including a longtime companion named Maria Bermeo and a daughter in Mexico City. The arrest also exposed his involvement in various crimes, leading to his transfer to the notorious San Juan de Eluva prison in Veracruz. Chucho's death is actually shrouded in mystery. In 1885, different accounts suggested he either died in conflict with fellow prisoners or succumbed to injuries sustained during an escape attempt. The unsanitary conditions of the prison were notorious for causing diseases and death. Chucho el Roto's legacy emerged from newspaper accounts, with early depictions focusing on his affinity for the arts and his supposedly non-violent crimes. The first literary work based on him, Diego Corrientes, was published just before his death. His modern image evolved during the Porfirio Diaz presidency and the Mexican Revolution, portraying him as an anti-hero challenging social inequalities. Chucho's depiction as a Robin Hood figure persisted into the 20th century through films, novels, radio shows, and even restaurants bearing his name. The ongoing fascination with his story raises questions about the political and cultural impact of famous bandits like Chucho in 19th century Mexico, with studies exploring their potential role as models for popular dissent. Heraclio Bernal, known as the Thunderbolt of Sinaloa, was a notorious bandit hailing from the Sinaloa region of Mexico. During his bandit years, Bernal led a group of pistoleros in the mining zones of the Sierra Madre Occidental, controlling parts of Sinaloa and Durango. His band, reportedly numbering up to 100 men, engaged in various illegal activities, including robbing stagecoaches, attacking armories, riding mines for silver, and plundering the wealthy residents of towns they targeted. Despite his criminal pursuits, Bernal managed to elude capture for 10 years, forming strong connections with the lower class and influential figures in the region. They were suspicious that police and soldiers might have facilitated Bernal and other bandits by selling them weapons and ammunition. Governor Francisco Canedo, a local authority, actively pursued Bernal, leading to confrontations and mocking exchanges between them. Bernal challenges extended to President Porfirio Diaz, and legends abound, such as Bernal hosting a more extravagant dinner than Diaz in a neighboring town. Although the veracity of these stories is unquestionable, they elevated Bernal to a hero in the eyes of the surrounding village people. In 1883, Bernal's group was joined by the Pera brothers, and in 1885, Bernal attempted to enter government service. He proposed a deal to President Diaz, seeking 30,000 pesos for himself and his security in exchange for serving as an officer. Additionally, he demanded the release of his captured gang members, including his imprisoned brother. Diaz rejected the offer, potentially denying Bernal a pardon due to the high payment request. In 1887, Bernal transitioned into the role of a political rebel, advocating for the return to his 1857 Constitution of Mexico, which prohibited repeating re-elections of the same candidate. However, this initiative faced opposition, as many who might have supported Bernal now favored Diaz for his repeated re-elections to maintain control. The government responded by deploying soldiers to the Mazatlan region and forming anti-guerrilla forces to hunt down Bernal. A 10,000 peso ransom was placed on his capture, leading to an ambush set up by two of his own gang members. Heraclio Bernal met his demise on January 5, 1888. Red Lopez, born Rafael Pez around 1886, gained notoriety as a Mexican outlaw responsible for at least 30 known murders in northern Mexico and the American Southwest. His tumultuous life saw him fighting in the Mexican Revolution, eventually meeting his end in a shootout with American Frank Hamer, a Texas Ranger. Red Lopez was born in northern Mexico around 1886. His mother was of Indian descent, and his father, Martin Lopez, later became a general in Pancho Villa's army. Lopez's uncle, Pablo Lopez, was another Vista general, infamous for the Santa Isabel massacre in 1916. Lopez and his younger brother were sent to work in the mines in New Mexico Territory during their youth. While there, Lopez honed his skills as an equestrian and marksman. By 1913, he joined Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show, showcasing his talents nationally and internationally. In 1913, Red Lopez shot and killed a fellow miner, Juan Valdez, in Bingham, Utah, sparking a deadly encounter with law. A posse pursued him, leading to a shootout where Lopez killed the Bingham police chief and wounded 2 deputies. The ensuing manhunt involved around 200 men. It became the largest in Utah's history. Despite efforts to smoke him out and starve him into submission, Lopez escaped the Mini Silver Mine, marking the deadliest shootout in Utah law enforcement history. Red Lopez fled to Texas after his escape from Utah, and he rose to lead an outlaw gang that was allegedly composed of former members of Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. He engaged in bank and train robberies along the Rio Grande and participated in the Mixing Revolution. In 1914, near the international border, Lopez and his gang derailed a train, robbed it, and brutally killed 19 American passengers. The Texas Rangers initiated a pursuit, but Lopez eluded capture for years. In October of 1921, Frank Hamer, commanding Company C Texas Rangers, ambushed Lopez near the Rio Grande. Acting on an informant's tip, Hamer suggested a suspected trap, repositioning his men. As the outlaws approached, Hamer issued a warning in Spanish, prompting Lopez to fire. In the ensuing firefight, Lopez was killed, along with 11 other bandits. Hamer's grazed wound marked the only injury amongst all of the Rangers. Despite Lopez's death and the defeat of his gang, the Texas Rangers kept Utah authorities uninformed. So, technically, the Lopez case remained open until January 24, 2003, from his escapades in Utah before he fled to Texas. The case was remained until January 24, 2003, when Deputy Sheriff Randy Lish confirmed their connection, officially closing the case after all the years of investigation. Silvestro Pedro Morales, a notorious serial bandit, etched his name into California history during the tumultuous 1880s. His exploits, marked by a deliberate coolness in his criminal endeavors, captured the attention of the public and law enforcement alike, earning him a reputation that was deemed unparalleled. In 1881, Morales catapulted into notoriety when he shot a Jewish merchant, leading to a 7-year sentence in the famous San Quentin prison. Released in February of 1889, he resumed his criminal activities, perpetrating crimes ranging from shootings to horse theft. On July 23rd, Morales robbed and shot a man, adding to his list of offenses. The following day, Marshal Keno Wilson initiated a pursuit to apprehend Morales, setting the stage for a series of dramatic events. Morales, exhibiting a propensity for violence, engaged in a fight with George Bunch on August 20th, further intensifying the manhunt. Amid the chaos, Morales captured Nymphia Brown, a stepdaughter of an unrelated manhunter, a man named José Morales. The ensuing search party, led by José, encountered difficulties in tracking down the elusive bandit. On August 25, 1889, Morales committed a heinous act, murdering San Juan Capistrano rancher Henry Charles. This sparked an escalation in the manhunt, with multiple rewards offered for Morales' arrest. The intensifying pursuit drew attention from law enforcement and private citizens alike. By early September of 1889, Marshal Keno Wilson, aided by Ignacio Castillo and Johnny McGarvin, successfully apprehended Morales after days of careful surveillance. Nymphia, who had developed a form of Stockholm Syndrome during her time with Morales, stayed with him out of fear. During the trial, Morales, defiant and vengeful, vowed retribution against Wilson and Castillo. Despite receiving a life sentence at San Quentin prison again, Morales found a way to manipulate the system. In 1909, Morales seemingly displayed good behavior, secured an early release from San Quentin. However, his release was a ruse, a calculated move to exact revenge on Wilson and Castillo. The vendetta was realized on October 14, 1910, when Morales killed Castillo at his ranch house in San Diego. Wilson, leading an extensive search in both California and Mexico, failed to apprehend Morales, who eluded capture, leaving a trail of mystery in his wake. Silvestro Pedro Morales, with his audacious criminal career, remains a captivating figure in California history, leaving a mark on the narrative of the Wild West. Manuel Lozada, born to Norberto Garcia and Cecilia Gonzalez in 1828, faced a lot of early challenges. Orphaned at a young age, he was adopted by his uncle, José María Lozada, whose surname he embraced. As a child, he assisted in caring for animals on the family farm, which made him unable to complete elementary school due to family obligations. Legend has it that Lozada grew into a cowboy onto the Cicero Blanca hacienda. His life took a dramatic turn when he eloped with Maria Dolores, leading to arrests and an escape, eventually finding refuge in the Sierra de Alicia, where he found his nickname was the Tiger of Alicia, or Alissa. Accounts vary in Lozada's early years. In one version, he suffered public whipping by a soldier named Simón Morales, sparking his transformation into the Tiger of Alicia. In another, he emerged as a bandit during the 1855-56 dispute in Tepec, later aligning with the Rivera's family and engaging in conflicts against government troops. Lozada's notoriety grew as he defeated government forces and attacked Tepec in 1859. During the French intervention in 1860, he allied with the French, receiving recognition and awards. However, as the French Empire crumbled in 1866, Lozada switched sides, declaring allegiance to the Mexican Republic and Juarez. After Juarez's death in 1872, his successor, Sebastián Lerdo de Tejeda, turned against Lozada. General Ramón Corona, Lozada's sworn enemy, played a crucial role in his capture. Betrayed by his lieutenants, Lozada was apprehended while bathing in Loma de los Metas and similarly executed on July 19, 1873. Legal rights were suspended for those labeled as bandits, which he was. Despite his death, the central government struggled for a decade to control Tepec. Manuel Lozada is regarded as a precursor to the agrarian reform movement in Mexico and indirectly contributed to the creation of the state of Nahuatl. Monuments in his honor stand in Tepec and his birthplace, San Luis de Lozada. Joaquín Murrieta Carrillo, also known as the Robin Hood of the West, or the Robin Hood of El Dorado, remains a figure of disputed history in Mexican lore. Born around 1829 and purportedly meeting his end on July 25, 1853, Murrieta's tale has been intertwined with myth and legend with John Roland Ridge's 1854 novel, The Life and Adventures of Joaquin Murrieta, the celebrated California bandit servant. As the foundational narrative, legends about the notorious outlaw during the California gold rush abound, yet historical evidence for a tangible Murrieta is pretty scant. Contemporary documents mention a minor horse thief bearing his name in 1852, while newspapers reported on a bandito named Joaquin committing robberies and murders during the same period. The California Ranger Harry Love was tasked with tracking down Murrieta and reportedly claimed a bounty for bringing his head. According to popular lore, Murrieta was a peaceful 49er and gold miner and a vaquero from Sonora. His turn to violence was supposedly triggered by false accusations against him and his brother, leading to his brother's hanging and Murrieta's horse whipping. His wife suffered from unspeakable harm, intensifying Murrieta's desire for revenge. He embarked on a brief but intense rampage against those he deemed responsible. The state of California offered a substantial reward for his capture, dead or alive. Although reported he was killed in 1853, disputes arose about the certainty of his demise, giving rise to his myths about his survival. Historian Susan Lee Johnson acknowledges the difficulty in untangling the fact from fiction in Murrieta's story. The consistence revolves around Anglos, driving him from a lucrative mining claim, followed by a series of tragedies, including the lynching of his half-brother and Murrieta's horse whipping. Whether he worked as a Monte dealer, a horse trader, or a bandit remains debated. By 1853, the California legislature enlisted Murrieta among the 5 Joaquins, prompting the creation of the California Rangers led by Captain Harry Love. On July 25, 1853, a confrontation near Arroyo de Cotua resulted in 3 Mexican men killed, including one identified as Murrieta. Love and his Rangers claimed the bounty, displaying Murrieta's alleged head in a jar. Subsequent tours of the gruesome exhibit raise questions about this authenticity. The legacy of Murrieta continues to evolve, with myths emerging about his survival. The destruction of his preserved head in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake added to his enigma. Murrieta's nephew, Procopio, continued the bandit legacy in the 1860s and 1870s, and it is also believed that Murrieta is the one who inspired the fictional character Zorro, as depicted by Johnson Macaulay's 1919 novel. For some political activists, Murrieta symbolizes Mexican resistance against Anglo-American dominance in California. Our last Mexican bandit is one we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but this is Procopio, who was Murrieta's nephew. He's also known as Red-Handed Bebito, and YouTube, please don't cancel this. A red dick and he was a notorious bandit in California. His nickname derived from either his red hair or his violent and bloodthirsty nature. He has various reported names, including Tommaso Radegno, Tomas Procopio, Tomas Redondo, Procopio Murrieta. Lots of names, but in 1872, the San Francisco Chronicle described him as one of the most fearless and daring desperados that they have ever seen. Procopio was born in Mexico, possibly in Sonora. His parents of mixed Spanish origin were described as having roving habits. His father was a vaquero, and Procopio learned the trade at an early age. His mother was the older sister of Joaquin Murrieta, the infamous bandit we just covered. After his father's death in 1852, Murrieta brought Procopio and his mother to California. Murrieta's death in 1853, orchestrated by rangers who displayed his head, left a lasting impact on Procopio. It is said that witnessing his uncle's death led to Procopio to adopt his name. As a youth, he gained a reputation as a fearless rider and as being completely reckless. In 1862, Procopio was suspected in the murder of a rancher named John Raines in Southern California, but was released due to insufficient evidence. He later led a gang in the Livermore Valley suspected of the brutal Golding family murders in 1863. Procopio and his gang were arrested, but again released due to lack of evidence or conflicting accounts. He was arrested in 1863 for cattle theft, and Procopio was convicted and sentenced to 9 years in San Quentin. During his trial, he took full blame, exonerating his accomplice, and was released in 1871. After his release, Procopio resumed his criminal activities, allegedly teaming up with a man named Tiburcio Vasquez, and they engaged in stagecoach robberies, and Procopio was arrested for complicity in the murder, but could not be linked to that with actual evidence. He was convicted for cattle theft again and sentenced to 7 more years in San Quentin. Paroled in June of 1877, Procopio returned to banditry, leading a gang near Fresno, Grangeville, and Caliente. Captured near Tejon Pass, 5 members of his gang were lynched. Procopio escaped, forming a new gang, and his criminal activities pretty much just kept going. So as soon as he was caught and let go, he just went right back to it. Though not much reform in those early prisons, and really not much reform now. But that's for another story. There are conflicting accounts of Procopio's later years. Some reports indicate he continued banditry as late as 1882, while others suggest that he died in Sonora, Mexico, in 1882, or the early 1890s. Folklore surrounding Procopio's exploits grew over time, portraying him as a bloodthirsty and ruthless figure. In 1925, the Los Angeles Times published a profile that further embellished Procopio's legend, describing him as one of California's most fearsome bandits, known for his cruelty.